votes for President of the United States are as follows. Joseph R. Biden, Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Well, hours after evacuating from their chambers as President Trump supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol, lawmakers resumed counting electoral votes overnight to certify President-elect Joe Biden's win. The reconvening of both sides was to finish the Electoral College vote process, which they did around 2:30 this morning, affirming Biden as the 46th U.S. president. Well, following the vote overnight, President Trump released a statement on his social media director's Twitter page, and it appears he is backing down. The current commander-in-chief now saying that there will be an orderly transition of power on January 20th, even though he doesn't agree with the outcome of the election. Well, thanks for watching CBS Austin this morning. I'm John Carlos Estrada.
And I'm Sophia Stamas in for Allison Miller. The impact of what's been happening in D.C., even being felt here at home. Jessica Taylor will have the latest reaction from Texas lawmakers. But first, more on the day that will live on in history. The attempted takeover is the first time the U.S. Capitol has been breached since the British attacked and burned the building back in August of 1814. The jaw-dropping scenes on Wednesday hard to watch as Capitol Police failed to keep a mob at bay, with some making it as far as Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office here. Well, the Senate floor leading Capitol Police to draw their guns as people tried to enter the House there. 4 people died during the chaos, 3 from medical emergencies, 1 woman shot and killed. That woman said to be a veteran. At least 14 officers injured, with more than 52 people ending up in custody. Now, many of those arrested coming after D.C.'s mayor ordered a 6 p.m. curfew last night. Several weapons also recovered, including a pipe bomb found outside the DNC, RNC, and the U.S. Capitol. The FBI now asking for help identifying people who took part in yesterday's violence.
But the Washington Times has just reported some pretty compelling evidence from a facial recognition company showing that some of the people who breached the Capitol today were not Trump supporters. They were masquerading as Trump supporters and, in fact, were members of the violent terrorist group Antifa.
That's Florida Representative Matt Gaetz receiving loud boos during a joint session just hours ago after partly blaming the Capitol assault on disguised members of Antifa, citing a report he had seen. Gaetz is one of a few members of the GOP still backing President Trump. But others deciding to go the other way. Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, who just lost her bid for re-election in the Senate, reversed her stance on objecting the Electoral College results, saying she had a change of heart after seeing the violence erupt at the state capitol. Reaction not only pouring in from Washington, but also here in the Lone Star State. Many Texas lawmakers witnessed the events unfold in person and are speaking out publicly to express their disapproval. CBS Austin spoke with several of them, and our Jessica Taylor joins us with their reactions to the horrific scene. Jessica.
Republican Congressman Michael McCaul is one of many lawmakers publicly condemning the violence that took place at the Capitol. Though he supports the president, he says this is not the way our democracy works. Congressman Lloyd Doggett watched from his office across the street where he was locked down, and he said the whole thing was truly un-American. Many lawmakers share that reaction. Austin Mayor Steve Adler shared his reaction as well to the chaos that ensued and said he's praying for the protection of the city of D.C. and our congressional representatives as they do the work of democracy. Republican Congressman Roger Williams also released a statement today saying in part, quote, "It's pivotal that we have free and fair elections in our representative democracy, and more importantly, that we trust in the results of those elections," end quote.
This is not how democracy's supposed to work, and I think it's disgraceful. We're not leading by example when this happens. And, you know, all leaders are responsible for this to some extent.
Many other lawmakers who witnessed it either in person or on television released statements calling it an assault on our democratic system. And President Trump supporters also gathered at the state capitol here in Texas to protest the election results. And as a precaution, the Department of Public Safety closed the grounds. We expect to hear when they'll reopen later today. Jessica Taylor, CBS Austin News.
All right, thanks, Jessica. We'll check in with you here in a little bit. And former presidents are also releasing statements following the upheaval in Washington. Barack Obama is saying history will remember the violence, blaming President Trump for inciting it. Bill Clinton also slamming our current commander-in-chief, saying the assault was fueled by more than 4 years of what he called poison politics, spreading deliberate misinformation. And Jimmy Carter calling what happened a national tragedy and not who we are as a nation.
Other reactions coming as CBS News reports that some of the president's very own cabinet members have been whispering about whether to move forward with formal proceedings to invoke the 25th Amendment and remove him from office just days before his term ends. And that's not all. A growing number of Democrats, more than 36, are also calling for his impeachment. They point to his role inciting rioters to storm the Capitol hours before it happened. Well, Twitter deleted 2 such tweets, one involving a video and the other praising the protesters. Also alarmed by the violence, current White House officials, now many are resigning, including White House Deputy National Security Advisor Matt Pointer. A person close to him says he's stepping down in response to the president's reaction to Wednesday's violence. And not only that, according to CNN, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and Deputy Chief of Staff Chris Liddell also consider resigning. CBS News reports that Special Assistant to the President and Deputy Press Secretary Sarah Matthews and the First Lady's Chief of Staff and White House Social Secretary Stephanie Grisham has also resigned. All right, Avery, around here, colder temps now settling in.
Yeah, grab the jacket. I think you will appreciate it this morning, running about 10 to 20 degrees colder than what you felt yesterday morning. These are your wind chill temperatures. Yeah, there's a bite to the wind out in the hill country where it feels like the mid to upper 30s, feels like 43 in Austin, warm spot feeling like 50 in Giddings. All this on the backside of yesterday's rainmaker. Impressive for some, not as much for others. On the backside of it, though, today looks great. It feels great, too, on the chilly side, of course. And I think you'll appreciate the way the next 2 days look as well. That changes, though, big time on Sunday. Our next weather maker looking potent rolls in at the end of the week and with not only a rain and storm chance, but perhaps some snow. I'll explain what we're up against in the forecast and how it could all shake out coming up.
Reaction continues pouring in following an historic siege on the U.S. Capitol. But it's not just coming from America, how other world leaders are responding. And don't forget, your news headlines are always scrolling at the bottom of your screen.
Yep, news here, weather right over by Sophia. It's up all morning long, even during the commercial breaks. We're back.